Peace, family. This is your brother Holip. Um, I want to get right into this. This is something that's been on my mind, and it's becoming more pervasive every day that I see. When I go outside and I just see and feel the spirit of my people, and this is a message to the black masses. It may seem like a strange message, but when I say the black masses, I mean the people that's supposed to be unconscious, the people that's supposed to be sheep, and all these other rhetoric that you hear coming from the so-called conscious community. And my message is this: the message to the black masses are: do not listen to the conscious community. Now, a lot of people may find that to be a strange message coming from me because a lot of people might think that I'm a part of the conscious community. And my response to that would be: there's no conscious community for me to be a part of. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I want to follow a particular flow of logic and why I'm doing this video in the first place. The number one reason why you should not listen to the conscious community is because they don't love you. Um, People who love their people plan a future for them. That's number one. If you don't have the energy to sit down and plan a future for your people, then how can you really say that you love them? It's like if you have a family and you're the mother and the father, and you don't do anything to ensure that the child has a future that's better than yours, then how can you really, really say that you love them? How? I mean, even if you don't have the ability to do it based on your circumstances, you have the desire to do it, and your desire will be reflected in your actions. Another thing is that people who love their children teach them knowledge of self. If you have this so-called conscious information, or this cultural conscious information, or this African-centered information, why don't you want to have that taught to your children? And I'm not just talking about your children in the selfish sense, meaning that your individual children, like you have a mother and a father, and they have kids. Um, and I can even make the argument that it's not being taught there. But let me just say, for argument's sake, that you are teaching your personal children. I'm talking about the children of the community. And another thing that lets you know that they don't love you is that actions speak louder than words. There's a lot of condescension coming from the so-called conscious community, a lot of self-righteousness coming from the so-called conscious community, but I don't see a lot of reflections of love. Love meaning understanding, meaning thoughtfulness, meaning if you know that somebody isn't on the level that you feel, well, that you're at, then you show some understanding toward that. You show some sensitivity toward that. You don't try to put people down and make people feel less than what they are, because what that does is it makes people react defensively, and people don't want to have nothing to do with you. So if you love somebody, if you love black people, then you're patient with black people. You're understanding of black people, and you're sensitive to black people. I am. When you listen to my videos, the majority of my frustration doesn't come from the masses. It comes from the people that call themselves conscious. My big beef is with them. My big beef is with the so-called conscious community, and my big beef is with so-called black leadership. If you go down the line of my videos, I'm very understanding toward the black masses. Very understanding. As a matter of fact, I'll let you know toward the end of this how understanding that I am. Um, another reason why you shouldn't listen to the so-called conscious community is because they haven't created anything for you. Um, the conscious community is an abstract. It's not a physical location. And I've said this many times. I would love to be a part of a conscious community, if you would actually create one. If I was, when I say you, I'm talking about us collectively. If we would create one, create a conscious community. I'll even settle for a conscious block. How about a conscious building? All right. How about a conscious three-family house? Can can we have a physical location where people of like mind can congregate with each other, a community? But I don't want to. I don't want to do a community because that's too advanced. Let's just start with a three-family house. Three conscious people living in a house together, and then we can expand from there. We can pick a neighborhood, start off with the house, and then we can expand to other houses. Maybe eventually get a conscious building, and then hopefully in the end have an actual conscious community where somebody is conscious. They can say, you know what, I want to go to so and so city in so and so state and move there because I'm conscious and I want to be surrounded by other conscious people. Another thing is they don't network and mobilize amongst themselves. There's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. What do I mean by that? It's pretty self-explanatory. You have all of these groups who call themselves culturally conscious, but none of these groups are in communication with one another. How many conferences do we have where you have all of these groups umbrella together so that we can at least get the idea or the feeling that they're trying to bang out their differences, trying to find some common ground, so that we can have some type of consolidation in the communities that all of these groups exist in. And I just think that it's hypocritical for them to expect you to come together with your brothers and sisters if they haven't come together with their brothers and sisters. That's another reason not to listen to them. Just to follow that flow of logic, they haven't created one institution to further a conscious agenda. One. If you want to have an agenda furthered, you got to create an institution that furthers that agenda. Meaning, a school, a place of learning. Where is this conscious institution where you go into this institution and it pumps out conscious people? It does not exist. On a collective and wholesale, it does not exist. In pockets, maybe. And I don't want to downplay the people who are doing that as best as they can. But on a systematic level, nowhere to be found. And I dare anybody to challenge me on that and tell me otherwise. And last but not least, the last reason why you should not listen to the conscious community, and this is to get back to my point in the beginning to show you how thoughtful and how sensitive I am to the people who are not conscious. The presupposition you are not conscious is false. What do I mean by that? The number one reason I say this is because no matter what anybody could say, no matter what any of these African centered conscious people can say to you, you are conscious enough to know not to listen to them. And you should applaud yourself for that. At least you are intelligent enough to know not to follow somebody down a dark fucking alley. Because until you can produce something, produce an institution, produce something tangible that can back up your rhetoric, nobody should be listening to you. No one. And that's my main source of frustration in our community. In the abstract. We don't create nothing. We don't have anything. We don't consolidate. We don't network. We don't have nothing that we can take that we can show to the people as like, this is the example of our consciousness. But we do have an example of our consciousness. You know what it is? It's backbiting, jealousy, self-righteousness, holier than thou, bullshit. The next point is that you've managed to survive absent African-centered cultural consciousness on a conscious level. Now, I want to be clear with this. I'm not saying that you are not conscious or African conscious as an individual. What I'm basically saying, and this goes back to my point about the presupposition that you aren't conscious is false, is that we are Africans. A cat is a cat, whether a cat wants to be a dog or not. You know, what you fundamentally are is what you are. So your ability to identify it or acknowledge it is kind of like, you know, irrelevant. It's like you cannot acknowledge that the sun comes up or rises in the morning. It doesn't mean anything. You know, it just means that you're not acknowledging a fundamental reality. So when I say that you've been managed to survive absent cultural consciousness, I mean on a conscious level, because subconsciously you operate as an African. You know, um, mm, yeah, I would say that. I won't put any qualifiers to that. I would say subconsciously you do operate as an African. You just don't realize how you're responding and realize it consciously that you're responding in that way. True, I believe that we have been influenced strongly by the European, and I would say that a person who isn't um, culturally conscious on a conscious level is more susceptible to European brainwashing and behavior. There's still our African spirit which fights against that European um, way of life. It's like the square peg trying to fit in the round hole. And when I say that you've managed to survive, is that you still have to acknowledge and never underestimate your ability to read people and bullshit. Because when you're existing on a street level, um, you learn about people. You have to have consciousness on a people and or a social interaction awareness so that you can, you know, stay out of situations. You know, get out here in these streets and actually survive. So don't underestimate that. And don't make people feel like just because you don't know about, you know, ancient Africa, you don't know about historical events and all this other stuff that you are somehow less than they are because you're not. I do endorse learning about your history. I endorse learning about all of that, our history, our culture, whatever. But I don't look at myself as better than you because I have a certain understanding or because I've read more books. That's bullshit. Because a lot of you out here can run circles around me in these streets. So don't and never underestimate your intelligence and your consciousness when it comes to that. You know, so don't allow nobody to stand over you simply because they have some locks or they have some dashikis or they have some bullshit on or some cultural garb or some cultural aesthetic and make them seem like they better than you because they're not. And we need to stop that bullshit across the board. We're all in the same boat. We're all under the socio-economic and political oppression of this European white supremacist system. So ain't nobody exempt. Whether you got your own business or whether you work in the McDonald's, I don't give a fuck. You still got the dollars that you collect is the European faces on them. So just because you got your own business, don't think that you're better than somebody who's working at a job or whatever. We need to stop it with this bullshit classism. But the main reason why I have did this video is because just going out in the streets and just seeing and feeling the vibration of my people. I put a Facebook post on my page, a status message, and I asked people, um, take a look up off of your phone if you're looking at my message on your phone, and just look around you. Look on the trains, look on the buses. There's a level of hostility and frustration that's palpable going on right now. And for me, you can see the defeat in our people's eyes. It's almost like you in a basketball game and you're looking at your teammates and everybody's in the game. They got their uniform on, but they're walking around with their head down because they feel that they've lost. And that's how I feel right now. You look at our young people. I mean, I see young girls with bellies. How in the hell can you be 16 years old, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you got a belly? Or you got that muffin effect going on? And it used to be where that was something that wasn't really prevalent. You know, like that you could. As a matter of fact, a kid that was overweight years ago kind of stood out. Now, It's like across the board. I can see it in the children's eyes. I can see it in the adults' eyes. I can just see that we just have given up collectively, and it pains me and it hurts me. So when you give up, or when your self esteem is damaged, then what happens is you create this persona of false pride to replace the real pride that you should have. And I know that it's true because on a personal level, when you have a person with false pride, all it takes to shatter that facade is some few words of truth, personal words of truth, and that person will break down and cry. And I've seen it. And it's not because I want to make somebody cry. I've managed to do it simply by just telling them the truth about themselves. And not even knowing them completely, but just knowing the facade that they put up and being able to identify the facade is enough to break them down. Bottom line is this: if we really love our people, we have got to get together. And I'm talking about the so called African centered, so called cultural conscious community, and build an actual community with coordinates. If I had to get to it with a compass, I could say the coordinates is this and that and whatever, and I can actually find it. It has to be a physical place. We have to get together and work and live and build and create businesses and institutions amongst each other. We have to do that. If we do not do that, then this whole thing is a joke, and we are a joke. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to be associated with jokes. I'm not a comedian. And so basically, that's all I got to say about that. And I hope somebody got something out of what I'm saying and didn't feel like I was attacking anybody in particular, but I'm attacking a concept and an idea in general. So y'all be good. I have no clue how we're gonna get out this shit. All I know is that I would love to talk with some other brothers and sisters so we can start trying to figure that out. Peace.